She wasn't trying to listen. She didn't lean in, didn't pause her steps, didn't hold her breath for gossip. The words simply landed in the open air between them, impossible to miss. Heavy as something already decided, her boss smiled when he said it. Casual, confident, like he was asking to borrow a pen instead of crossing a line drawn in permanent ink. But he wasn't looking at her the way men usually do when they ask a woman out. He was looking at her partner, right into his eyes. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't nervous. It was a tist, a quiet show of power. A question wrapped inside another question. Are you going to do anything about this? For a split second, she thought she must be misunderstanding. People didn't do things like this in real life. Not this boldly, not this openly. There was always at least the courtesy of pretending. But the room didn't shift back into normal. No one laughed it off. No one said, "Hey, that's not cool." No arm slipped around her waist in gentle, wordless claim. Her partner just stood there, watching her. Not angry, not protective, not even uncomfortable enough. Just observing, waiting to see what she would do, as if the responsibility of the moment belonged to her alone. In that stretched, fragile silence, a strange calm came over her. Not the calm of peace, but the calm of realization. The kind that arrives when a truth you've been dodging finally sits down in front of you and says, "You knew. You just didn't want to know." She looked at her boss then. Really looked at him. Saw the confidence, the assumption, the lack of fear. He didn't think he was risking anything. He didn't think there was anything solid enough between her and the man beside her to stop him. And the worst part was, he was right. Because the man who was supposed to make that boundary clear hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, hadn't chosen. Something inside her didn't shatter. It didn't explode into heartbreak the way movies show. It just settled, like dust finally landing after being shaken for too long. A quiet understanding slipped into place. I've been standing alone in this relationship for a while now. So she smiled. Not brightly, not flirtatiously. Politely, the way you do when a decision becomes simpler than the emotions attached to it. "Sure," she said. Her partner blinked, like he hadn't expected that. Like he thought she would rescue the moment, make it harmless, protect him from the discomfort of confrontation. But she wasn't interested in protecting him anymore. Not from this. Not from the truth he had just revealed without saying a word. She didn't say yes because she was excited. She didn't say yes to make him jealous. She said yes because, in that instant, something fundamental shifted. The fear of losing him. The thing that had kept her quiet, accommodating, understanding, dissolved. You can't lose someone who isn't holding on. The rest of the conversation blurred. Her boss said something about details, about texting her. She nodded. Her partner stayed quiet, his expression unreadable, like he was still trying to figure out what had just happened and how it had slipped out of his control. But she knew. Nothing dramatic had occurred. No raised voices, no accusations. To anyone watching, it might have looked like a harmless exchange, maybe even a joke taken a step too far. But to her, it was the moment a door quietly clicked shut. Not slammed, not locked with fury, just closed with certainty. The drive home was quieter than usual, but not in a way that demanded attention. The radio played softly, traffic moved in slow lines of red lights ahead, and the city carried on like nothing irreversible had just happened. She looked out the window, watching reflections slide across the glass, her face faintly layered over passing streetlights. He cleared his throat once, like he might say something, then didn't. Maybe he was waiting for her to start. She didn't. She didn't ask why he hadn't said anything. Didn't he ask what he was thinking while another man openly asked her out like she was unattached? Those questions felt strangely outdated now, like letters addressed to a place she no longer lived. So she sat with her hands folded in her lap and let the silence stretch. He mistook it for calm, for maturity, for her not wanting to make a big deal out of it. He even glanced at her once and gave a small, relieved nod, as if they had both silently agreed to move past something minor and inconvenient. But inside her, something had already shifted into place with quiet precision. That night, she didn't curl into his side on the couch. She didn't avoid him either. She just sat in her usual spot, a careful few inches farther than before, her body language subtle enough to be explained away, obvious enough to be felt. When he got up to grab a drink, she didn't ask for one too. When he yawned, she didn't tease him about always being tired. When they went to bed, she stayed on her side without drifting across the invisible line between them in the middle of the night. He noticed the distance the way people notice a room getting colder gradually, uncertain whether it's real or just their imagination. The next morning, she didn't text him after he left for work. No. Did you get there safe? No. Heart emoji. She stared at her phone once, thumb hovering out of habit, then set it down. It wasn't anger that stopped her. It was awareness. She had been tending to the relationship like a garden by herself for a long time, watering, trimming, checking the soil while he enjoyed the shade without ever asking what it took to keep things alive. Now, her hands were still. Over the next few days, the changes continued in small, almost invisible ways. She stopped reminding him about appointments, stopped adjusting her schedule to match his without discussion, stopped softening her tone when he seemed stressed, stopped offering comfort before he asked for it. Not out of spite, not to punish, but because she finally saw how much of herself she had been pouring into someone who had noticed the effort, only the results. He started to feel it then. The missing warmth, the absence of small kindnesses he had come to see as background noise, rather than gifts. He asked once, half laughing, "Why are you being so serious lately?" She shrugged lightly. "Just tired." That was the only explanation she gave, and it was true in ways he couldn't yet understand. At night, when he reached for her, she didn't pull away sharply. "Se just didn't tilin," in the way she used to. Her responses were gentle but distant, like she was being careful with something fragile that no longer belonged to both of them. He thought they were going through a phase. Stress. A mood. Something that would pass if he gave it time and avoided conflict. What he didn't realize was that this wasn't a storm. It was the quiet after one, when the damage is already done and someone is walking through the wreckage alone, deciding what can be saved and what was never really standing to begin with. She took longer than usual getting ready, not because she was trying to impress anyone, but because she was trying to understand herself. She stood in front of the mirror with the dress draped over one arm, studying her own reflection like it might offer an explanation for how she got here, agreeing to dinner with a man she had never seen outside office walls, while the person she had once imagined a future with sat at home assuming everything was fine. She chose something simple. No dramatic lipstick, no perfume she associated with romance. She didn't want the night to feel like a betrayal, even if, technically, the lines had already been crossed long before this invitation. What she felt was an excitement. It was a quiet, steady curiosity, like she was stepping into a version of her life where she was no longer the only one trying. When her boss greeted her at the restaurant, he stood up. That alone surprised her. He smiled in a way that felt directed, attentive. Not possessive, not entitled, just aware. He asked if traffic had been bad. He noticed she seemed a little tired and asked if work had been overwhelming lately. Small questions, basic consideration. The kind that shouldn't feel rare, yet somehow did. She found herself answering more than she planned to, talking about projects she cared about. Ideas she'd never bothered sharing at home because they'd always been met with distracted nods or half-listening hums. Here, someone followed up. Asked why she liked certain things. Remembered details from earlier in the conversation and brought them back later. Halfway through the meal, she had a strange, almost out-of-body thought. So this is what it feels like to be paid attention to. There were no fireworks. No instant chemistry. No movie scene sparked. Just a steady sense of being seen as a full person instead of a background presence in someone else's life. And that was what hurt, because across the table from this man who was simply being decent, she realized how low her expectations had quietly dropped over the years. She had reshaped herself into someone easy, someone understanding, someone who didn't need much, until even basic emotional presence started to feel like a luxury. At one point, he laughed at something she said, a real laugh that reached his eyes, and she felt warmth rise in her chest, followed immediately by guilt. Not because she was doing something wrong, but because she could so clearly feel the contrast between this and what she had been accepting. She excused herself to the restroom for a moment, gripping the edge of the sink as she looked at her reflection again. Her eyes were brighter than they had been in weeks, not from romance, but from recognition. I wasn't asking for too much, she realized. I was just asking the wrong person. The rest of the evening stayed easy. They talked about travel, about childhood memories, about things that had nothing to do with work. When he walked her to her car, he didn't try to touch her beyond a polite hug. He didn't push for another date. Ahust sighed. Adi enjoyed her company and hoped she got home safe. She sat in the driver's seat for a long moment before starting the engine, hands resting on the steering wheel, heart strangely calm. There was no giddy rush to text anyone, no urge to replay every word. Just a quiet shift in understanding. When she got home, the lights were on. Her partner looked up from the couch and asked, "How was your night?" in the same tone he might have used if she'd said she was staying late at work. "Fine," she replied, setting her bag down. And she meant it. But she didn't offer details, not to hide anything, not to be secretive. She just no longer felt that reflex to share every part of her experience with someone who had shown the same interest in holding it. She realized then that the date hadn't been about starting something new. It had been about seeing clearly what she had been living without. It didn't happen all at once. There was no single dramatic moment where he suddenly understood everything. It crept in slowly, like a draft through a window he didn't remember opening. At first, it was just small things that felt off. She didn't sit as close to him on the couch anymore, not far enough to make a point, just far enough that he noticed the space when he went to put his arm around her and had to reach a little farther than usual. She still smiled, still answered when he spoke, still moved through their shared routines with quiet efficiency. But something warm had thinned out, like color fading from a photograph left too long in the sun. He told himself she was stressed. Work, maybe, or a hustired. Everyone goes through phases. But then he started to realize he couldn't tee. Remember the last time she laughed freely at something he said? Not a polite smile, not a soft huff of amusement, but that unguarded laugh that used to make him feel like he'd done something right just by being himself. One evening, he came home later than usual and found her already in bed, reading. So looked up, gave him a small nod, and went back to her book. "No, I missed you." No teasing comment about his bad timing. His quiet acknowledgement, like he was a roommate coming in after hours. "Everything okay?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah," she said, "just tired." He stood there a moment longer than necessary, waiting for her to say more. She didn't. The questions started visiting him more often after that, circling his mind when he was driving, when he was brushing his teeth, when he was lying awake beside her steady breathing. When did things get like this? He tried to replay recent weeks, but found mostly blank spaces filled with work, distractions, the comfortable assumption that she would always be there, emotionally steady, emotionally available. Then he noticed the absence of the little things she used to do without being asked. His favorite snacks stopped appearing in the pantry. His laundry stayed where he left it unless he moved it himself. She no longer reminded him about calls he needed to make or events he'd almost forgotten. There was no complaint attached to the change. "No, I'm tired of doing everything." Just silence where her care used to be. One night, as they sat at the kitchen table eating, he finally said it. "You've been kind of distant lately." She looked up from her plate, not startled, not defensive, just calm. "I have. Yeah. I don't know, it feels like you're somewhere else." She held his gaze for a few seconds. And in that pause he felt something he had felt before, not anger from her, not hurt, but distance. Measured, thought through. "I've just been thinking," she said. "About what?" She wiped her hands on a napkin, movements slow, deliberate. "About how long I've felt alone while standing right next to you." The words didn't come out sharp. They didn't accuse, that almost made them worse. There was no heat to fight against, no raised voice he could push back on. Just a simple statement, laid between them like a fact she'd already accepted. "I didn't know you felt that way," he said quickly, the first flicker of panic rising in his chest. "Why didn't you say something?" She gave a small, tired smile. "I did, just not in ways you were listening for." He opened his mouth, then closed Italiano. Memory surfaced times she'd tried to talk and he'd been distracted, times she'd needed reassurance and he'd joked instead. Times he'd assumed her patience meant she was fine. Now, sitting across from him, she didn't look like someone asking to be understood. She looked like someone who already understood and had adjusted accordingly. Have you ever been in a room full of people and felt completely invisible? Or maybe you've poured your heart and soul into something, a project, a relationship, only to feel like no one even noticed. It's like you're speaking a language no one else understands, or you're a ghost in your own life. This feeling, this sense of being unseen, is something so many of us experience, but so few of us talk about. It can lead to what I call the quiet exit. That slow, silent withdrawal from social circles, from our passions, from our own potential, because we start to believe that our presence doesn't matter. If you've ever felt this way, I want you to know you're not alone, and this video is for you. We're going to talk about why this happens, and more importantly, how you can reclaim your sense of worth. Not by shouting louder, but by learning to see yourself first. Let's break down this feeling of invisibility. It often starts subtly. Maybe you share an idea in a meeting, and it's ignored, only for someone else to say the same thing 5 minutes later and get praised for it. Or you plan a get-together, and people cancel at the last minute without a second thought. You reach out to a friend, and your messages are left on read for days. Each instance on its own might seem small, insignificant, but when they pile up, they create this heavy narrative that tells you you are not important. Your voice doesn't count. Your efforts are worthless. It's a painful story to live in. This isn't just about not getting enough attention. It's about feeling devalued and disconnected. Human beings are wired for connection. We need to feel that we are seen and valued by our tribe. When that need isn't met, it can genuinely hurt. It can chip away at our self-esteem until we start to question our own value. And that's when the quiet exit begins. It's not a dramatic storming out. It's a slow fade. You stop raising your hand in meetings. You stop suggesting ideas. You stop trying to organize events. You decline invitations because you assume you won't be missed anyway. You retreat into your shell because it feels safer in there. At least in solitude, you can't be actively ignored. The danger of the quiet exit is that it reinforces the very belief that started it all. That you do one matter. The less you participate, the less you are seen, and the more you believe that your invisibility is a fact. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You quietly remove yourself from the equation. And because it's so quiet, nobody seems to notice you're gone, which just confirms your worst fears. But here's the crucial truth. Your worth is not determined by how much other people notice you. So, how do we stop this cycle? How do we find our worth when we feel unseen? The first step is a radical shift in perspective. We have to stop looking for validation outside of ourselves. Think of it like this. You've been holding a mirror up to other people, waiting for them to show you a reflection of yourself that you like. But their mirrors are often distorted by their own issues, their own busyness, their own perspectives. It's time to put down their mirrors and pick up your own. You need to become the primary source of your own validation. This is not about being arrogant or narcissistic. It's about self-compassion. It is about learning to see yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a good friend. Start by acknowledging your own efforts. At the end of the day, instead of focusing on who didn't notice your hard work, take a moment to notice it yourself. Tell yourself, I worked really hard on that today, or I was brave to share my idea, even if it wasn't picked up. Celebrate your own small wins. You cooked a great meal? Acknowledge it. You finished a chapter of a book? Give yourself a pat on the back. You are building a new habit. The habit of seeing yourself. The next step is to reconnect with what truly matters to you, independent of anyone else's approval. What are you passionate about? What makes you feel alive? When we feel unseen, we often stop doing the things we love because we think, what's the point if no one will see it? But the point isn't the audience. The point is the act itself. The point is the joy, the challenge, the growth you experience. If you love to paint, paint for the feeling of the brush in your hand. If you love to write, write because you have a story to tell, even if it's just for you. If you love to hike, go hike for the view at the top and the feeling of strength in your legs. When you engage with your passions for your own sake, you generate your own energy and fulfillment. This creates a powerful inner source of worth. you start to realize that your value isn't tied to your productivity or your social capital. Your value is inherent. You are valuable simply because you exist, and these activities are an expression of that existence. Now, let's talk about relationships. Feeling unseen can make us either desperate for connection or completely avoidant of it. The healthy middle ground is to focus on quality over quantity. Instead of trying to be seen by everyone, focus on being seen by a few key people. Who are the people in your life who genuinely listen? Who celebrates your successes with you? Who sees your efforts? Invest your energy there. A deep, meaningful connection with one or two people is far more nourishing than 100 superficial ones. And sometimes, you might realize that the people you retrying so hard to be seen by are simply not capable of seeing you. And that's okay. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of your incompatibility. It's like trying to plug a European charger into an American outlet. It just doesn't fit. It's not the charger's fault. It's about finding the right outlets for your energy. It can be painful to let go of certain relationships, but it is essential for making space for people who can and will see you for who you are. It's also incredibly important to learn how to express your needs and boundaries. Part of the reason we feel unseen is that we don't always make ourselves and our needs visible in a clear and healthy way. We might hint at what we want, hoping someone will pick up on it. Or we say yes to things we want to say no to, because we're afraid of disappointing someone. This is a recipe for feeling resentful and invisible. Learning to say, actually, I'm not okay with that, or I need your help with this, or it is important to me that we spend quality time together is a powerful act of self. It's you telling the world and yourself that your needs matter. It won't always be easy, and some people might not react well, but the people who are meant to be in your life will respect it. You are teaching them how to treat you by showing them how you treat yourself. Finally, remember that finding your worth is a practice, not a destination. There will be days when you feel invisible again. There'll be moments when you slip back into old patterns of seeking external validation. That's normal. The key is to be gentle with yourself. When you have one of those days, don't beat yourself up. Just gently guide yourself back to your own mirror. Remind yourself of your inherent value. Reconnect with a passion. Reach out to a trusted friend. The quiet exit is a response to feeling unheard. The powerful answer is not to shout, but to turn inward and listen to yourself. Your voice is the one that matters most. When you truly start to see and value yourself, a funny thing happens. Others start to see you too. Not because you're demanding their attention, but because you're radiating a quiet confidence and self-assurance that is naturally magnetic. You are no longer waiting to be invited to the party. You are the party. If these feelings of invisibility and low self-worth feel overwhelming and are deeply affecting your daily life, please consider reaching out to a mental health professional. Talking to a therapist can provide you with tools and support tailored specifically to you. It is a sign of immense strength to seek help. Remember, your well-being is the top priority. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope this has brought you some comfort and some practical ideas. If it resonated with you, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more conversations like this. Let me know in the comments one small step you're going to take this week to see yourself. You've got this. Thanks for watching.